Hi guys, Noel Flannery here, Peak Performance Mind Coach. And I thought I'd put this video together for you goalkeepers, giving you a kind of overview of the problems I find I come across with keepers and what they struggle with, because generally there's a lot of similarities you are finding challenging in your own careers. And I thought I'd put this video together and hopefully it will help all of you deal with them accordingly. So one of the biggest things, obviously, nerves is an understandable thing. We spoke about a bit. I had a video earlier that spoke a bit about in more depth than with this, but I'll just kind of briefly go over it here, because we've got a number of topics to get through. So basically, nerves is our concern about what's going to happen in the future. So obviously, how we feel before the game, is how's the game going to go? How am I going to perform? Am I going to get a clean sheet, etc., etc., etc. And obviously, we're not in control of any of these things. But as humans, obviously, we're imperfect, and we're putting energy into the things that we're not in control of. It's like putting energy into, like your neighbour's going to get a brand new car, and you want them to buy a red Mercedes. Like, they absolutely have to buy a red Mercedes. And when they turn up with a blue Ford, you get upset about that. We would never do that. I mean, of course, that's a completely preposterous example, but yet, to be honest, it's no more ridiculous than what we're doing in the game itself, and I talk from first-hand experience, because, I wasn't a goalkeeper, but I was a multiple British Championship winner myself. I was a racing driver when I was young, and I've been there on the day, where this is, for me, it was, 250 guys versus me, to get the result on the day, and the trophies are sat downstairs. Because I was able to, I worked on myself to be able to have these skills to deal with this. So it's just like, the first kind of port of call is, before we can take an action on something, is to realise what's going on. And what's going on is you're not doing anything wrong. We definitely don't want to be judgmental about ourselves. We're just noticing ourselves, I'm feeling a bit nervous. You need to relax a bit, no control of this result, and there really shouldn't be any reason to doubt yourself. There's a huge part of this which I hadn't touched on in another video, but you just have to be badass. Like when I was competing, I was so incredibly driven to be the best I could be, and with that drive and determination, there's no pulling myself out of bed in the morning to go train. I'm just up and I'm on it, as I'm sure a lot of you guys are. But like when you're endlessly badass at what you do, it doesn't just increase your skill set. It increases your well-being, your mental skills as well. Sorry, excuse me. So it gives us such confidence when we are absolutely badass at what we do. And I think you need to constantly be looking at yourselves in your career, seeing where you are at, and being honest with yourselves, because it's if you're satisfied being in the third or second division or whatever national championship you play in, if you're satisfied with that, this video, and certainly working with me is not for you. It's not for you. This is for people who want to be absolutely badass, or they're on the way up to there to be the best that they can possibly be. And certainly, I've had no interest in anything that I do. to be anything less than that. And that's not being arrogant or that. I'm just being honest with, I've got my own goals and stuff for the future, and I'm going to absolutely apply myself fully to do that. But when you do that, nerves just diminish. They just completely evaporate. Now, there might be an odd day where you've completely applied yourself in your training, for the last few years, and you're miles more than anybody else, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to feel amazing because of that. But there might be the odd day where you struggle a little bit, but that's okay. But generally, I'm teaching players some skills in order to deal with them, and it's always about. It's a similar process to getting over from your shoelaces come undone and you've done some tremendous fail and issue out there, and the ball's going to the back of the net because of it, or you've completely mishit a goal kick or whatever it is. It's kind of a similar process to that. Whenever we're hurting or there's a feeling that doesn't feel good, the process would always be to replace that with a better feeling. So it's always replacing. Right, think this doesn't feel good, let's just replace that with something that feels better. And that's the constant kind of process we're working on. Because it's not sports psychology that I work in, it's about our emotions. And it's a much more simple kind of route towards peak performance, because feelings is everything to us. It's the first question we all ask each other when we meet. It's the first question people in China are asking each other right now. Portugal, Brazil, everywhere you want to say, everybody says on the planet exactly the same thing when they meet in various different slang ways. But it's all about how are you, and there's a reason for that. And that's because as human beings, what we want above all else is to feel good. So our emotions have a profound effect on a cellular level, how our bodies respond. So that when we're upset, anxious, nervous, frustrated, all of these things, that will profoundly affect how your body behaves. So the guy who is feeling those things, and it's a penalty kick or a free kick or the police coming down towards you, your reaction times are going to be down, your stretch will be less, etc. And you guys test this. Next time you're massively upset, try stretching. And obviously you guys are pretty fit, you should know exactly how far you can stretch, and you'll see that it's less because your body's tight, right? When we're relaxed, what happens? Our bodies become relaxed, right? So it's all about when we feel good, then we can be relaxed, and then our bodies can respond accordingly. Reaction times are up, and our on a cellular level, we're just better. We're just better, and it just feels good. It's just a good thing. So it's all about mental/emotional performance. Is all about simply just feeling good. And you guys will be sat there saying it can't be that easy, but it really is. That's all you have got to do. And when you do that, a lot of issues just fall by the wayside, nerves, etc. And so it leads into the next part of the game. Say it is a penalty shootout, a penalty kick. Now you guys know the stats will say the majority of them are going in the back of the net. The odds are against you. It's a huge big area to cover. Now, and obviously you're not in control of it either, because if that striker absolutely nails his shot and sticks in the top corner, that's the end of that. So it's having this acceptance that of the situation. Now, it doesn't mean you're being asked to be skipping down the road like Mary Poppins and all, unbelievably happy because things have gone wrong and you've lost and failed. Not at all. It's not what you're being asked to do. But you are being asked to just accept that and move on. To be honest, and I touched a bit about it on this other video, it's acceptance is acceptance is very good in key, but nirvana is that nothing bothers you in the first place. There's nothing to accept. Now I know that sounds like incredibly challenging, but trust me, it's there for all sportsmen, and it is it's a superpower, and it's a very very generally a very kind of in-depth place to get to. You need to be generally pretty advanced to be able to do that on a regular basis. You might do it occasionally. But certainly I can think of a tour golfer I've been with for 3 years, and on his good days he's like that. He puts the ball, and if it drops it, great, and if it doesn't, so what? It's not good, it's not bad, it's just a complete non-event. Now the advantage to that is it's impossible, given our job first and foremost above all else is to feel good, right? How can we feel good when we know if the future happens in a certain way that's going to hurt us? Can't be done. We can accept it and move on, which is good, but nirvana is that there's nothing to deal with in the first place. So if the future can't hurt us, because whether this ball goes in or not, you're going to be fine, and it really isn't the end of the world. But if a player can get to that point, then his performance will just shoot through the roof, because now you're massively in the now. You're untouchable. You can't be hurt. Nothing can touch you. And so therefore, confidence, belief, all of these things come. But and I'm talking about, we get the story that runs in the background. So we don't get what we want. It's absolutely irrelevant how much you want to save this ball going back in the back of the net. It becomes irrelevant from a performance standpoint. Because we don't get what we want. We only get what we are. And we get the tape that's running in the background. Not the one that we say how we feel, because that's just ego, and inevitably it's not telling the truth. I'll give you a good example of this. This is just like with my immense, mental skill sets. I play golf, and I remember 3-putted a green, and I was pretty. Obviously that's quite a disappointing thing to happen in golf, and I've got 5-6 minutes till I tee off for the next hole. Other players are playing and stuff, and I'm saying to myself, I'm okay, and I was actually genuinely quite convinced I was okay. But as I took my tee shot and it fired off into the woods, that told the truth. That showed where I was really at. And I was like, laughed to myself, okay, I obviously wasn't okay. Because if I was okay, then the ball would be down the middle of the fairway. But because I was hurting, then obviously that fundamentally affects how your body works. So obviously I put a bag swing on the ball, so obviously the ball ends up going in the woods. So for you guys, and I see this often, especially as a member, obviously the women just won yesterday, which is absolutely fabulous and amazing. But I remember the men's Euros, you could see the keepers hurting on the penalty shootouts afterwards. And that has to show what was going on in the background. Because they knew with absolute certainty that if that ball goes in the back of the net, they're going to get upset in themselves. They're going to get frustrated with that. And that being the case, it's impossible to be in the moment. It's impossible to be fully without a care in the world, because we know the future's going to hurt. It's like trying to walk across a motorway without being scared, or without having a care in the world. It's just impossible. It's just not going to happen, because the future's about to really hurt. So that's kind of like what's going on. I mean, another part of accepting things. It's very kind of it's really huge. Is like, again, the tape's going on in the background about critical comments, because players, we've all of us, right, in daily life, have all been hurt from critical comments on what people have said. That, oh, you should have saved that, or how did you make a mess of that, and even off the pitch, we've all had critical comments, and if we're all like super honest with ourselves, and this is a safe space that we're in just now, then we'll be honest and say that, yeah, I've been hurt by that in the past, and I get hurt by that to us in daily life. We all do. The people who, and we're all surrounded by these people, some people say, oh, we didn't care what other people think. That's not true. That's just our ego saying that. And remember this kind of golden, absolutely set stone law. We don't get what we want, we only get what we are. We only get the tape that's running in the background. That's the real story. And so changing that will literally change your lives. It'll literally change your lives, both on and off the pitch. And so we can get people where like a player said to me recently, he was talking about this, and the manager had said something about, the shot, and that he should have saved it. It's half time, and he was really hurt by that, and he went out on the pitch in the second half, really hurting from that, and it's kind of like, how to deal with that. It's challenging. It is tough. It's tough. But again, like, if we go back to, if we're absolutely badass and have a total and astonishing belief in yourself, then nothing can hurt you. Nothing can hurt you. And so players' focus ends up being on upset that the neighbour shouldn't have said that, or the manager shouldn't have said that, or why has this happened to me? Look at this, somebody's done this to me. And their focus is on that, when their focus should be elsewhere. Their focus should be on, like for me, what I do, my process is always like, if I'm hurting, it's more of an indication of where I'm at as a person that day, like where my beliefs are. Because if they've gotten to me because of something's happened, or somebody's cut me up on the road, or whatever, all the stuff we go through in normal life, or crap service in a shop, like if that has gotten to me, that's more of to me, it's like it intimates as to where I'm at that day. Because if I'm like buzzing and absolutely on it and having a great time and enjoying life and being grateful for the amazing things that I've got and all the amazing things that are going to happen from the future for me, if I'm buzzing and absolutely on it, then none of that stuff can hurt me. None of it. It just goes straight over the top of you. Just imagine, like, if you got some news, like say the and you've had it before, days where you've came off the pitch and you've played absolutely out your skin. You've just done some amazing stuff out there, right? You could bump into your grumpy neighbour when you drive home at night and him say something, and you just wouldn't care. You just wouldn't care. Or you left and you went to the shops and you came out and somebody had scraped your car. It just wouldn't bother you, because you're just on cloud nine. And that's where we need to try and be at all the time. So the focus needs to be on, not this guy has done this to me. It's that we need to be in a better space, like constantly working on ourselves to try and keep ourselves in that slot, and it'll become a lot easier as time goes on. Generally, the players find challenging is, like, I start to teach them about how we feel and notice the differences. because we're all very aware of feeling 10 out of 10, right? Absolutely top of the screen here, amazing, right? Buzzing, like I said, you've just had, the best game of your life, clean sheet, and you were just amazing. So that's great. So we're aware of that, and we're aware of the other end, complete despair and, upset, and we might be aware of a little bit above that, anger and stuff, and maybe feeling good up here, but generally it's like all these points in between. Then we need to learn to know the difference between feeling 7 out of 10 and feeling 5 out of 10. Because, and this is really key, because unless we know where we're at, how are you going to make a change? How are you going to react to that? You just can't. You can't make changes for things that you're not aware that it's going on. And the reason it's so key to know where we're at, and then have some tools in order to change where we're at. The reason that's so key is because your performance will mirror image where you're at that moment. So that's really, really key. So it's like every moment of the day, especially in our sport context, your performance will be a mirror image of where you're at that moment. Not where you were 10 minutes ago, not where you are 10 minutes to go, or not where you are next week, not where you are next year, not where you were last year. It will only mirror where you're at that moment. Now you could have a penalty shootout and you've got 5 goals at this, and on penalty one you might be absolutely on it, confident, believing in yourself, totally accepting of the future, feel amazing, feel absolutely amazing, and like anything is possible. And yous have all been there where before that ball was struck you knew you were going to save it. Not confident you could save it, you knew you were going to save it. And when you had that feeling over the course of your career, when have you ever been wrong? You've never been wrong. You're always right with that. So let's call that 10 out of 10. Now your performance has always been 10 out of 10 as well, when you felt like that. So it's the feelings first and the performance after. Because you saved that ball every time you did. Now how many times have you been feeling terrible? Now that's shot one of this penalty shootout. You might get to the last one and it's 4-4 and your emotions completely changed. We would call that, your bottles crashed, you've been completely psyched out, etc., etc. And now you feel terrible, like a 1 or 2 out of 10, like way down here, right? I'm crazy stressed, crazy concerned about the future, totally not in the moment, and now, we that's going to have a profound effect on a cellular level on how your body works. So it'll be less stretchy, less agile. Your reaction is going to be dull from a mental aspect, and so again, your performance, if you feel 2 out of 10, your performance is going to be 2 out of 10, and that's why every time when you feel like that, the ball's going to end up going in the back of the net, unless we get lucky and our player ends up feeling the same. But it's really easy for the striker in that situation to feel better than you, because they're kind of holding all the cards. The stats say that if they hit this on target, a lot of them are going in. So it's a bit easier, I feel. For them, it's much more challenging for you guys. But as I say, if we are, again, it just goes back to if we are absolutely badass, absolutely at the top of their tree, then think Muhammad Ali, or Ronaldo, Lewis Hamilton, etc., etc. These guys they've worked in a different way to the rest of them, and the offset to that isn't just a skill set. The offset to this is just an innate belief in themselves. And so therefore when it comes to these moments, there's no nervous about the future. They're absolutely buried in the moment, and they're able to do that because the prep that they've done to get there and the belief they've got in themselves. But for the guy who is not believing in himself and is nervous and anxious and stuff, really, if you reverse engineer it, it all just goes back to he knows he hasn't worked as hard as some of the other guys. And it isn't just work ethic. It's more just about how we apply ourselves on a daily basis. So what I work a lot with players on this is about their well-being during the course of the day and them increasing their skill sets to deal with difficult circumstances. Like an excellent one of that, like I had a tour golfer, and at the club he practiced at, there was this just absolutely awful person who was a member there, and he was just a really intensely toxic guy, and that everybody hated to get roped into conversations with, because he was just a really nasty individual. And somebody I arranged to meet him, just by chance, just because I found that quite fascinating, because I wanted to see what this guy was all about. But anyway, my golfer would, go up to practice, and he would see him in the putting green. I've actually avoid the putting green and go to the driving range or out the course and do the same kind of all day during the course of every day, because the old guy was retired and they're there at the club all the time. So that old guy had an immense amount of power over my player, because it'd really ruin his day spending time with this guy. As I was trying to explain to him, that this guy is heaven sent. This guy is absolutely amazing for you. So excuse me. It's sorry. I thought I was going to sneeze there. Sorry. So this guy's absolutely heaven sent, because at the end result of this is one of, it's brilliant for you, because look at the skill set you're going to gain from this guy. Because obviously he's extremely difficult to be around. But if you can deal with this, and initially you'll just be sweeping under the carpet, you'll be hurting, but you'll be accepting it and kind of moving on, right? But nirvana will come where, you know what, it doesn't bother you. And sure enough, he kept doing this kind of day by day, and, a month was in, and kind of saw him again the next time, and it's like, right, how are you getting on with our wee project? And he's like, it's really weird. Like, he says, last week it happened for the first time. I didn't go in deciding this guy's never going to bother me. I saw him, we spoke, and then I went out the course. And then afterwards I kind of realised, that's weird, that didn't bother me at all. It didn't hurt me. Boom, we're there. That is, nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. Now there'll be days where he doesn't do that, and that's absolutely okay. Because we're humans, and we're flawed, and that's absolutely fine. But that day he kind of nailed it. Now imagine taking that out of the pitch, and this is what I'm saying where nirvana is. For the golfer, for the snooker player, for the racing driver, for the goalkeeper, that nothing can touch them. They are in charge of their well-being at that point, not the circumstances. So the player who is nervous before the match, again, it's not that you're doing anything wrong, but the circumstances are in charge of you, not you in charge of them, the circumstances. Because it's feelings first, then the performance comes. So if we feel bad, anxious, frustrated, not fearful of the future, then obviously the performance is going to drop kind of accordingly. So it's always about that. So it's not like, normal players have the whole thing kind of backwards. It's not like I feel good and I'm confident. I'm playing well and I'm playing well, and therefore I feel good and I'm confident. It's the other way about. They feel good and they're confident, and that's why they're playing well. So part of this whole process is, as we all do in life, I see players often say, like, they have good days and they have bad days, and they're not sure or don't understand why they've had a good day or bad day. And then as time goes on, and their skill set gains, and hopefully for you guys, this will be starting to ring true for you. You then start to understand what was happening, because again, it's all about that tape that's running in the background. And if there's a tape there that you're worried about a grandparent who's in hospital and he's not well just now, or there's a difficult relationship at home, or worry about a house buy, or all the normal stuff that we'll have in life, that will have a profound effect as to what's happening on the pitch for you. Absolutely profound. So another area you guys have kind of mentioned to me is this whole staying in the game. So say like you're especially difficult for guys in particularly good teams, right? Because those who are in a less good team, obviously you keepers are kept very busy. But like I had a player who won his national championship last season, and so the team were doing amazing. I mean, like amazing, and so he was going like a lot of spells where I think he was barely seeing the ball at all. 20 minutes have gone by and he's not had his hands on the ball. Because I think like I work closely with Brad Morgan, who's an excellent who runs an excellent stat system. Look him up on LinkedIn and here on Insta. Absolutely amazing guy. So I do some work with him, and Brad was telling me he reckons it's over a 90-minute match. It's less than 5 minutes. You guys have got the ball. Which is amazing. So the difficulty is now there's sports that are much easier mentally to stay engaged, right? So like when I was a racing driver, that was much easier. Outfield players in football, tennis players, etc. Basically, it's the fast-moving sports. Skiing. They have their other difficulties, their other mental challenges, but it's like generally, it's the fast-moving sports are a lot easier. It's the stop-start ones, golf, snooker, goalkeeping. These can be very challenging. So it's all about like staying in that moment. There's a tool I would suggest you do. For those of you who don't meditate, I definitely would. I'd start to take up meditating. Now, meditating is simply the act of being focused on one thing. That's it in a relaxed manner. Really, that's it in a nutshell. And there's kind of breathing exercises where you can sit with your eyes closed or lie down or sit in the lotus position or whatever's comfortable for you guys, and just simply count your breaths back from 50, and you'll be surprised how many times you lose count, and then you just lose count and then go back to it and then back on that again, and then back to 1, and when you come out of that, you'll feel a lot differently. Intensely focus. It's weird when you come out. It's like everything's in HD. The colours are amazing. Your eyesight's like staggering here and everything. It's like really, really cool. So I always recommend players of all sports meditating. So really big key focus tool for that. So in terms of like staying in the game, like I say, there's a number of tools that we use. So one you can try is we're intensely staring at the ball, and not just like, because you can watch like like when you picture like, say you're watching a film, right, but you're kind of not really that engaged with it. You're looking at your phone. You're watching it, but you're not really watching it. You're not really that engaged. And that's the toxic bit that we want to kind of get out on the pitch. What we're after is you being super engaged. The times where you went to watch a film and you're hanging on every word and what's happening. We want you like that. So we could, so say the ball's up to the other end of the pitch, we'll be watching the ball go from player to player. And it's not just like watching it, it's looking for details. Details is what keeps us engaged in anything. So look at the details, look at the speed of the passes between the ball, because it's not doing a constant speed all the time, for example. It's at a different speed. And really, really, really engage in this whilst breathing really slowly. Now, breathing really slowly is your body's number one tool to relax. And we spoke about being relaxed and how that profoundly affects how your body works. So what's happening for a lot of players is they're not particularly engaged, so they're not doing an exercise like that to keep themselves engaged with what's going on. The ball comes over the... It's almost like you've kind of gone to sleep, it's like you guys will know exactly what I'm talking about here, it's almost like you've kind of switched off a bit. And the ball comes over, the play starts to come down the pitch, it crosses over the halfway line. And it's like you're sleeping, it's like that point where somebody's nudging you, and they're like, what's going on? And then by the time they've done that, now the ball's halfway at your half, so it's 3/4 of the way down the pitch. And now we suddenly go from that stage of trying to wake up to panic stations. And now we're super stressed out, hypersensitive, hyper on it, and just totally not in the space we need you to be in. So that's quite a very common thing that I hear from players playing, and they have done this drill that I just pointed out to you there, and they've had tremendous success with this. Tremendous success, and so it's keeping you engaged, because we need your engagement level to be really high at all times, not kind of fluctuating up and down. But our focus and how engaged we are in something, it will naturally kind of do that. And if we don't act on it and do something to keep us there, then it'll just do that. It'll just slow. Even if you start the game, you're absolutely on it, and it'll just start to do that. You have to prod yourself to nudge it up, and then we just keep doing that up here. None of this. That's bad. We need to be on it up there. And so this is how, players, you end up looking at things in a kind of wrong way. The initial comment to me will be, how do I stop myself panicking when the play comes down the pitch? And again, they're seeing the effect rather than the cause. You end up trying to deal with the effect. And so that's a very kind of common thing. It's deal with the root cause, and the root cause was we were disengaged in the first place. When the play was up there. So that. But as I say, generally, like I say, if you guys are in a team that's not doing so well, they'll obviously keep you a lot busier. So generally, that'll be less of an issue for you. Goal kicks have been another one. And again, as I say, I'm Scottish and therefore fundamentally cannot play the game, because obviously it's in our DNA to be rubbish at football. So that there's nothing. I'm not here to teach you anything, mechanical. But I listen to the struggles you're with, and certainly this goal kick solution when this was spoken to me about, I was listening, and a player was saying about they thought, and their goalkeeping coach thought their goal kicks were a bit poor, lacking distance control, left to right not so accurate either, and generally it was kind of one of the bits of the game they were kind of struggling with more. And I went away and started to think about this. let me deviate a little bit. This is kind of part of the problem that happens in professional sport, especially where there's a lot of staff. Football's a classic example of this. Now, you guys are going to be in clubs of various sizes, and you've got various amounts of staff. Now, there might only be 4 or 5 coaching staff, there might be 100. But it's like, all of the coaches are experts in their chosen field. Now, it might be, goalkeeping, it could be, physio, sports scientist, the manager, etc., etc. Kicking specialist, whatever, so that's all great. And it all makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, you wouldn't want anybody but a specialist in there kind of coaching you. But also, it's a problem as well. Because where's the learning from other sports? Where's the learning from business to football? Where's the learning from tennis to football? Where's the learning from golf to football? Where's the learning from other elite sportsmen to football? How does that get done? And that's, I think, quite a huge bit. Now, there could be the odd talk and stuff, Djokovic might visit a football club, etc., etc., but I think there's a massive amount that's being missed, because of that. It's quite a tricky one to solve as well, and how you solve that, because obviously if you gain somebody in football, very quickly they just become a specialist in football again. So obviously the advantage I've got is because I'm working a number of different sports, I'm able to apply things from different sports to different sports. So there's things that I've learned in my motor racing management career that I'm applying to all sports, because it's just absolutely brilliant and fundamental. Practicing with purpose and pressure, etc., etc. But also, this is something when it came to goal kicking. Sometimes I'll go away and have a think about it, and then come back to play the following week, and I'm like, I've thought about that, and actually I've kind of just realised something. The master of stationary ball to stationary target sports is golf. That's what the whole sport is about. Goal kicking is just one small part of what you guys do, but golf, it's the whole game. And I could hear my goalkeeper on the other end of the call, and he's like, right. So I'm like, so let's just take it like it's a golf shot. Let's just hit. And he's like, okay. And so then I start to take them through how a professional golfer would take a golf shot. And he goes away and he applies that out in the field and practicing by himself, and he's like, wow, that's amazing. And he goes into the club the next day, speaks to his goalkeeping coach, talks him through it, and the goalkeeping coach is like, that's just incredible. Like we've never thought of kind of like doing things that way. And this is just one of, many countless examples of how things can get done. I'll take you through this briefly. But basically, just go on YouTube and Rory McIlroy, it doesn't matter what the player is, and just watch the analysis of them taking a golf shot, right? And you'll see the tracer. Now, the tracers are really, really powerful tool. So amateur golfers, you see the shot tracer. So they're standing behind the ball and they're envisaging the shot tracer. Now, it might be a thin blue line, it might be a thick yellow line. It'll have a curvature to it. It'll be going from there to the target, and they're seeing that ball flight when they're standing behind the ball, just like you guys are. Now, this doesn't mean that a goal kick doesn't take any longer, not at all. We're talking about a second or two of just standing behind that ball and visualising. Now, the great thing for you guys is obviously you are hitting the ball on that plane. A golfer is standing 90 degrees to that plane. So that's why it's really, really fundamental for them. Because obviously, they're facing 90 degrees away from where the target's this way, but they're facing this way. Obviously, you guys are facing the way you are hitting, which makes it good. And in terms of picking the target, it's just like little things. So like on a smaller stadium, you'll be able to see the horizon. So you say you've got a player you're shooting towards, right? So say he's on the right hand wing. So you see where your target is. You look directly above your target to the horizon. Now there may well be, and you'll be quite likely there's something that'll help you as you get to the horizon. So there'll be a tree, there'll be a light on the grandstand, there'll be a building in the background, and it's all detail. So my golfers are looking at a tree in the background for their shot, which is beyond the flag, say in the green. They'll go wherever the target is. It may not be the flag, but say it is in this instance. They'll go directly up from above that. Directly up above that is a tree. And again, it's all detail, so they're not just aiming for the tree, they're not just aiming for a branch. We're envisaging, even though we can't see that, we're envisaging a leaf on a branch. Because the more detail you put in it for your brain, then it's absolutely ingrained in your brain, right, this is the plan, this is where we're going. And it's very clear and militaristic. And so we come up from the player, target, now we see that, and then we can add the short trace onto that, and you can have that ball going straight. If you're putting a curve on that, add that into that, and now we've got in the pre-shot, before you've taken the shot, an absolutely clear plan as to what it is we're going to do and where we're heading. So there's always 3 points to taking a shot in golf. So first point, obviously, stand behind the ball planning stage. We've been through that. Next bit is completely engaged in this moment, and this is the actual taking of the shot, the execution of the shot. We're completely engaged in this moment. We're not concerned about the future. We're not concerned about the past and our previous goal kicks. It's all about this moment. So it's a complete commitment. You've made the plan, now completely commit to it and execute it, whilst feeling in a good, confident space. If you hit that shot and you're anxious, concerned about the future, frustrated, angry, you're not going to get a great result. Remember, that shot will be a mirror image. The result of that shot will be a mirror image of how you feel in that moment. And obviously, in the planning stage, you've dealt with wind, etc., all these other variables. Then the second that ball's left your foot, now we're into the third part of this. Because now, when the ball's left your foot and it's on way, now we're no longer in control. So if the wind suddenly picks up 20 miles an hour and blows it off the park and into the grandstand, so be it. It's a complete acceptance of whatever happens, because it can't hurt you. It doesn't matter. It's not life or death. You're playing a game. It really doesn't matter. So that's kind of like a very, very compressed version of how a golf shot's taken, and I think you guys should practice it. Out on the after training, just with some targets, and we set up like a scoring game. So there'd be, say, like a cone in the middle, and if you hit the cone, that'll be 5 points. There'll be a medium circle. Say, I don't know. Well, it depends on how long the shots are, but you guys know what is good and bad in terms of how big to make these circles. You mark it a bigger circle, 5 metres or whatever it is, and that's 3 points, and then the outside circle you get 1 point for that, and then you would, and it just saves you, just because it's easier just to build one target and change where you start from. It's just easier. And then you can have a set game that you play with a score line. And my guys keep a practice diary so that they know what the highest score. So in 10 shots, my highest score, maximum score would be 50. You knocking the cone down in the middle, every time. Obviously, that's not going to happen very often. So the highest score might be 32, and it's like, right, so this is building up some pressure. So you need to practice with purpose. What is it I'm trying to achieve here? so often I'm with a player in a number of sports, and I turn up in a practice day. It's like, right, great. What are we doing today? What is it you're? Well, what I was going to do is this and this. Like, yeah, but what is it you're trying to achieve? And they don't know. There's no purpose to what it is they're trying to do. So make sure there's purpose in what it is you're trying to get better at. And then make sure there's pressure. Now, pressure comes from consequences. That's where the pressure in the game comes from. Consequences, because you're going to lose the game, you're going to drop to fourth on the table, etc. These are all consequences, and that's why we feel pressure during the game. So players I work with in a number of different sports, we're always working with a massive amount of pressure. My snooker guys are just drained in sweat and stress and difficulty, and absolutely broken at the end of a day's practice with me because of the pressure of putting them under to perform, because we've got drills and we've got scores and records to chase, etc, etc. So this is a very, very kind of key part to this. Now the last bit, because I'll not keep this too long because it's been 50 minutes already, is I really hope it's helping you guys, I'm sure it is. This happens, I would say, I can remember in the goalkeeping world, I've only ever had one conversation with a new keeper, and I was just, when I spoke about the future, I was just like, wow, amazing, you absolutely nailed it. 99% of the time it is just, it's really poor. So things I hear a lot about when I ask players, right, okay, where are we going for a year from now? Where are you going 5 years from now? Where are you, at the end of your career? What have you achieved? And so often I hear, well, I'm going to get as far as I can. So that's the first one I hear. And the second one I hear is, well, I'd like to get to the Premiership, but obviously that's probably not very realistic. Fabulous. And then, another one will be, well, it's like, I'm, to be honest, I'm probably, I'd love to be further up, but it's like I'm just going to see what happens and just kind of suck it and see, right? So generally these are the responses I get. The elite in any sport, the Olympic gold medalists, the best in all their fields. You talk to anybody that's worked with Hamilton when he's younger, or Ronaldo, or Federer, or Djokovic, or any of these guys. Speak to them about when they're juniors, Beckham as well. It's like everybody involved, they're going to be superstars. It was absolutely obvious they were going to be superstars. These guys weren't meandering about. These guys were working their ass off, and they had a clear intention and path on where to go. And so what I would liken it to is, imagine, have you ever left the house on foot or on a bicycle or in a car, in any mode of transport, whatever it is, right, and not knowing exactly where you're going? It's never happened. Like I'm in Edinburgh now, in my home, and if I have to drive to London, so I go down, jump in the car, 6 hours later I arrive in London, and I get to M25 and I'm like, right, so what now? London's not a destination. And in terms of like, in this analogy, I would like a player saying he wants to get to the Premiership. That's him like leaving the house and saying I'm going to go to London. It's just not a destination. We need an address. I am going to 64 Bromsgrove in Chelsea. SW2 4NW, whatever it is. That's an address. Now we can go to there. And every time we leave the car, we leave the house, this is exactly what we do. we're going to Tesco's. We're going to the club. We're going to the training ground. You've got a clear destination where we're going to go. Now your career goals are exactly the same. Now nobody can pick those career goals for you. Only you can. But I can give you some guidelines on how to do that. It has to feel good. But it also needs to make you feel a little bit, geez, that's a bit scary. That's a good goal. If it's comfortable, that's not a good goal. So it needs to feel good, and you need to find a way of making it feel believable. Just think, inevitably you guys are all adults listening to this, but for you younger lads, and maybe you adults remember when you were young, you guys have been playing football since you were 5, 7, 8 year old, and as you gained some skills and you were really, really enjoying it, and you started to tell family, friends at school, mum, dad, anybody that would listen, that me, young James, I'm going to be a professional footballer one day. And you tell everybody that would listen, and there's no elite sportsman that I work with now that hasn't gone through that stage. They told everybody that would listen that they're going to be on the TV doing this for a living. This will be their job. They're not going to be working at Tesco's or a building site or anything else. They will be doing this for a living. Now that, say in football terms, one of the most played sports on the planet, played by billions of people. You guys as kids were telling mum and dad that you were going to make it for a living. And, playing in Europe, obviously, standards are really high. That if you guys are doing this now, being a professional sportsman in your field, even if you're at a lower division, that then puts you in the top 0.00004% on the planet of footballers, which is outstanding. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Now, as kids, we're actually, so excuse me, as kids, we're phenomenal. We're absolutely phenomenal. I've got a friend and he stays in Wales, and his 2 kids are only like 7 and 8, and they speak 2 languages. They speak Welsh and English, and they speak English better than I do, but flawlessly, absolutely flawlessly. Now, us as adults, we try and learn Welsh. That's going to be pretty challenging. But when you're a kid, you didn't put obstacles in your way. You're the epitome of being out of your own way. Now, as we get older, we gain more knowledge, which everybody just assumes is endlessly good news. But it isn't endlessly good news, it's somewhat good news. It also gives us the opportunity to put hurdles in the way. And then we start using words like realistic, which I absolutely detest. Being realistic is it's a cancer in terms of being successful. Now, your goals on setting them, if you haven't set one that's really clear just now, is understand this, right? The goal, everybody assumes the goal is there to be achieved. That's the purpose of the goal. This is what I'm going to achieve, and it's not. The goal is there to make you better. The goal is there to stretch you. The goal is there to drive you on. The goal is the thing that gets you up at 5 a.m. to go out and train. This is what's really, really key. So just understand that in terms of that's the purpose of the goal, is to get yourself moving. Now, if you set a goal to be earning 250 grand a week, in a professional footballer. If you set that as a goal. Now, if you ended up being a professional footballer and only earning 150 grand a week, and you're in the top league in La Liga or Bundesliga or something, you're not exactly going to be massively upset about that, are you? Given that if now, you're a junior player or you're in the National League or whatever, it's not exactly going to be massively upsetting. You're still a tremendous success. So, I mean, this is where, the goal, and this is what it serves. So, I would say, generally, you all supported clubs when you were younger. And why is it always like whenever I ask, why does everybody always seem to be a Man United fan? But like when they were kids. But I would say to anybody, if kids grew up and they had a picture, gigs and etc. And on their wall when they were kids and massive Man United fans, I would say, well, make that your goal then. Make it playing for Man United. And didn't take no for an answer. It's like we have to be, once we've set our goal, we can then, I work with players, and this is what, can I mentor them, and not just doing mind stuff, I'm mentoring them towards that goal. And we then come up with a plan as to how to achieve that. And it then becomes a lot less scary. Because when you look at it on a kind of incremental basis, okay, like at the end of this year, we need to be doing this, right? We need to be 10% better than we were last year on everything, right? How do we do that? Then we kind of just like reverse engineer it, and between the two of us, we kind of like work together, right? This is what we're doing, and then all year you work towards that. And then in the off season, we make a new plan for the following season. This is how we're going to do X, Y, Z. So we work towards that. So please make yourself a goal. Please write it down. Don't meander around, because that's all you're doing is if you don't have a clear plan. Reach for the stars. Absolutely go for it. And just believe in yourselves that it's possible, because it absolutely is. These superstars on 300-400 grand a week, they're not gods. They're just human beings, just like you. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of talent. I think it's just skill set, and skill sets learned through working your ass off. But and applying yourself. It's not just about putting hours in. You have to apply yourself in a way that others can't even contemplate. Obviously, life was a bit easier for me competing when I was a driver in the 90s, but it's I stuck with this philosophy of what I was trying to do was to turn up at the events with an advantage over the rest of the guys. That was my job. And if I did that, how could I not be confident? And so I just applied myself in a way that others just couldn't even contemplate. And you read about this time and time and time again. The boxer that does this, the football player that does this, the tennis player that does way more than anybody else. And like I say, it's not just work ethic, there has to be quality to that as well. And it's about, everything, from how you eat to your skill set on the pitch, to your knowledge of the game, to your mental skills, to your physical skills, to your goalkeeper, coach, just be ingrained in them. They're there to make you better, and part of your job as a player is to get the best out of the people around you. And players are forever kind of not seeing this. Like if there's even slightly a clash, or you're just, because I hear from goalkeeping coaches a lot as well, it's like players just don't, I keep saying to them, like, is there anything else you want? Like, can I do something else? At the end of training that day, no, I'm good, I'm off. So they go home and spend the afternoon playing the PlayStation. If that's what you want to do with your career, don't get in touch with me to work together, because I'm not interested. I only want people that have got to be badass. They want to be absolutely want to do whatever the other guys are not. And that's, you know, what I can help you with. I really hope this video has helped you, you know, like enormously in a various parts. Love to hear your take on it, and really let me know your thoughts, because you know, it's exciting stuff. You know, you guys are doing such an amazing job, and please be grateful for it. You know, like, I'm so grateful for the job I've got. But you know, like do make sure, you know, you, whenever you catch yourself complaining about your job, you know, make sure you're being grateful for it, because it's a lot more exciting and better paying and more fulfilling than most of the planet are doing. So yeah, please don't forget that. Right guys, that was fun. Take care. Thank you. Get in touch. See you soon. Bye bye.